Welcome back to I Know Fact All About That. This episode's topic is sugar. And before we get into it, let's meet our co-hosts. So, pouring some sugar on me, it's sugar-free Brie. Sugar-free Brie. One lump or two, it's Nick.
Hey.
And not for me, I'm sweet enough, it's Ruth. Okay, so this week's episode is on sugar. I'd just like to also say welcome back, Ruth, who's been away for an extended period.
Thank you.
She's come back to Australia with her new husband.
Yeah, brought him in. Mail order husband.
Why
imported.
And because of that, you got to choose this week's episode. And therefore, I think you should go first with fact one.
Okay, sugar is just as addictive as cocaine and heroin. Sugar stimulates dopamine receptors in the same way as drugs, and studies on rats found that sugar was preferred to cocaine and that the rats even experienced sugar withdrawals.
There you go.
That sounds about right after I've had a sweet bicky and I go, ooh, I could have a second.
Next thing you know, the whole bicky box is empty.
Yep.
So, as addictive as cocaine and what was the other one?
Heroin.
And heroin.
No way. That's some powerful stuff.
Well, I mean, cocaine is just as addictive as heroin anyway. They just work in different ways.
So cocaine works off the dopamine receptors. So in some way, sugar must stimulate your dopamine hit.
Yeah, so sugar stimulates the dopamine receptors in the same way as drugs do.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, fact one for me. We are all descended from fat European monkeys. So about
Speak for yourself.
So about 12 million years ago, there was monkeys living in Europe, and one set of monkeys went through a genetic mutation, and it allowed them to start to store sugar as fat. Up until this time, they've been able to use sugar as energy, but they hadn't been able to store it. Therefore, this gives those monkeys an evolutionary advantage over the other monkeys. Those monkeys all died out, and these monkeys were pushed down through global warming and food sources. So they were all pushed down. Some went to Asia and became orangutans, and the others came into Africa, and they became all the monkeys and apes that we have today. And that's what we're descended from. So
there's hope for us yet.
There's hope for us yet, yeah. So basically, they're not quite sure why the other monkeys died out, whether us being able to store fat or the apes that had the genetic twist being able to store fat made them bigger, so it made them be able to compete more for food and stuff like that, or whether the storing the fat was just that next evolutionary step. But that's what happened 12 million years ago. Fat European monkeys.
I so want that to be true.
And we'll go fact one, Brie.
So sugar can be used to treat a wound, allegedly. So studies have shown that if you rub granulated sugar onto a wound, like a bed sore, an ulcer, even an amputation, before dressing the wound, it can kill the bacteria that causes the chronic pain, which then also prevents the wound from healing. More sugar in hospitals.
Ridiculous.
It does sound ridiculous.
As an energy source, I would have thought that maybe that could potentially be a source of energy for, I don't know, infection or the bacteria or the microbes in the wound.
So bacteria needs water to survive, and sugar, similar to salt, draws the water out, so it creates a dry environment in which bacteria can't survive. It's allegedly not as painful as salt. So obviously putting salt on a wound, excruciating.
Oh, that stuff hurts.
Yep. But apparently sugar doesn't cause that pain, but it draws the water out similar to the salt does. So it creates a dry environment for the body to heal.
And let's move on to fact one from Nick.
Keeping on the topic of using sugar for medical purposes, sugar is used as a painkiller in infants. So the mechanism behind this is that basically infants are so sensitive to sugar that when they're given a high concentration of a glucose solution, it stimulates opioid receptors in the brain. And for mild surgeries or immunizations, it it's essentially used as a painkiller for babies.
Right.
Wow.
So the equivalent to an anesthetic or in lieu of an anesthetic.
So my understanding is
Just get
that
them high.
well, yeah, basically. So my understanding is that I don't think you can put a baby under anesthesia.
I don't know. I'm
that's
sure
maybe
it'd probably be frowned upon.
Yeah, so there's a lot of complications associated with putting a child under a very young child under anesthesia. The mechanism behind this, when an infant sucks or swallows a sugar solution, it can stimulate a release of opioids in the brain, which are a natural pain relieving substance. This can lead to a reduction in the perception of pain and a more relaxed state during medical procedures.
Wow.
It's interesting.
Now, is this just the sugar industry going, right, let's get them while they're young?
Well, I was actually just thinking that, like, what's the knock-on effect from that? If it's if it's caused such a numbing effect, then would you not have a memory of that? And maybe it turns into like a problematic addiction to sugar. But then again, when you said about what's the alternative, it's like, is it better to give a baby sugar or morphine? Probably the sugar, right? So yeah, it's interesting that.
Moving on from fact 1, we think it's interesting and only right to move on to fact 2. So let's start off with fact 2 from Ruth.
Okay, sugar causes hyperactivity and behavioural issues in children. And studies found that the consumption of sugar in younger years contributes to behavioural issues and difficulty in attention and motivation into adulthood.
Backed off.
Oh.
I wondered if that's where this was going when I saw you sort of shuffle through your notes. I thought, oh, something's coming.
Okay, so Ruth, do you want to finish your fact? Or is that you finished, Nick? Have you got anything to add to that?
That was finished, yeah.
No, nothing really more to add there.
It's interesting, isn't it? Even now, if you think, oh, I need a little sugar hit, little energy sugar hit, you kind of get that little parasite in your brain going, come on, give me some sugar.
And once it's there, it's so hard to switch off.
Yeah, for
it's
sure.
It's just, I need more.
I mean, if anyone's ever seen kids at a kids' party, you give them a lolly bag and next thing you know, all the kids are running around like mad.
Yeah, like crazy. It's insane the difference with kids and sugar.
Well, this is exciting. We have our first new format of a fact off. So a slightly different format this time, guys. What you're going to do is write down your answer and then I'll ask you to reveal your answer. If you've both got the same answer and it's the correct answer, then you get a point. If you've got the wrong answer, guess what?
You're one step closer to wearing the shirt.
You're one step closer to wearing the shirt.
Okay, question 1. What are the primary health concerns related to sugar consumption?
Okay, so Ruth, would you reveal your answer?
Diabetes and obesity?
Nick, would you reveal your answer?
Diabetes and Alzheimer's.
I'm going to give it to Ruth. It's obesity and the related diseases like diabetes.
Okay.
Bang on. Okay, what is the type of sugar found in fruits?
Nick, what have you got?
Fructose.
Fructose?
Correct.
Ruth is winning 2-1.
Okay, question 3. Which country is the largest producer of sugar?
Okay, I'll just go with this one.
Okay.
Go on, Ruth.
China?
Brazil.
Oh, no, neither are correct. It's India.
Oh, I was going to say India.
Get it, India. Sorry.
And suffer the consequences of obesity. Question 4. What is brown sugar?
Okay, let's reveal those answers.
I said raw or unbleached sugar.
I said less refined or raw sugar.
I'm going to say a no to both of you. It's sugar combined with molasses.
Ah.
What?
My next guess was going to be heroin. Brown sugar?
Interesting.
Isn't that, yeah,
Sugar combined with molasses.
No,
So
did
how
not
is
know
it better
that.
for you than white sugar?
Is it?
it's not.
Sugar.
Yeah, I didn't think there was a healthy sugar. And question 5 for the win, maybe it's not a win, is brown sugar healthier than white sugar?
and reveal your answers.
No.
No, sugar's sugar.
So the official answer is not really. Brown sugar contains a small amount of molasses, which provides some minerals, but the difference is too small to make a significant impact on health.
Our first fact off of the new form of fact off, and Ruth is winning 3-2. Fact 2 from me. Sugarcane was responsible for the largest forced migration in history.
Fact off.
The transatlantic slave trade. So apparently about 12 million Africans were displaced from Africa. Of those people that survived the horrific journey, only 4% ended up in North America. A massive 36% ended up in Brazil, where they were put to work on sugar plantations. The average age, the life expectancy of an African slave was 23 years old, but that was 4 years older than the indigenous slaves that they'd captured and put to work because of the European diseases that we were taking over with us. Therefore, African slaves were more sought after, therefore more expensive. Up until 2021, Brazil was the largest producer of sugar. It's since changed to
India.
India.
How many people were trafficked out of Africa, did you say?
Around 12 million. They're not totally sure on the numbers, but they reckon around 12 million. And Portugal was, at the start of the slave trade, Portugal was the main driver behind the slave trade. That they had the access to the Congo and stuff like that, and it's estimated they took 5.8 million Africans over to the New World, which is horrific.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to?
You covered it.
Okay, so we are on to another fact off, which is me. So who is it against, me and you? Well, since you just played Nick, and because she's my favourite champion. Do you want to read or do you want to score? What do you want to do? Do you want to read?
I can read.
Yeah.
Okay. Which organ in the human body regulates sugar levels? Okay, Brie, reveal your answer.
It's wrong. I know it's wrong. I've written gallbladder.
Bow.
Yeah.
Pancreas?
That's correct.
Yes. I couldn't think of the name.
Question 2. Which hormone lowers blood sugar levels? Brie, reveal your answer.
Insulin? Is that a hormone?
Correct.
Insulin.
Correct. Question 3. Does sugar cause hyperactivity in children?
What's so funny? I missed that.
It was their fact.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I get it now.
Answers?
I'd say yes.
I would say no.
It's a no.
Wasn't that...
You've all been punked.
Okay. So we know your lie then.
It was bound to happen on an episode.
I think that's the first time that's happened. We've been called out on our lie, which has been a fact of.
Was it your lie as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Because I was waiting for you to do it as a truth and then we'd have to battle for who was right or not.
So it's a myth. It's a total myth. It's all down to parents' perception of their children.
Although I will say I'm very confused by these studies because it's like all the evidence shows that it does. So I'm wondering like who's paying for these studies, to be honest.
I think part of it is if you eat sugar, it's going to give you energy and it gives you fast access to energy. So it could potentially appear like it's making you hyperactive, but it's not making you hyperactive. It's just giving you a burst of quick, easy energy for the body to burn.
Isn't that sort of the basic pretense of it? You're active in a hyper way, increased activity, mentally, physically.
From what I was reading, there's a difference between what hyperactivity is and having a quick access to an energy source.
Yeah, okay.
But then also what happens in kids that are already diagnosed ADHD, ADD, whatever, and they have a very clear drop in hyperactivity from not eating sugar. This is what I mean. Who's paying for these studies?
Yeah, that you always have to be so careful.
Is
reading
there
these
some,
things, isn't it?
some potential sugar industry
could be.
agenda behind this?
Could be.
Yep.
But yeah, I found it super interesting because I thought that would be a sure thing.
Correlation, yeah.
What is a sugar glider? Brie.
Bonus points, picture.
Oh, okay.
Hang on, do you want Ruth's answer?
Yeah, okay, go Ruth.
I just said something that glides over sugar fields to harvest sugar cane.
Brilliant. Brie, can you maybe add a defining feature about?
It can't fly. It's a small marsupial that inhabits trees, and for a quick getaway, it spreads its, I don't know what you'd call the skin between
A bingo wing.
a bingo wing. Yeah, I've got that too, but I can't do the same. And it can leap from tree to tree in a gliding manner for self-defense and movement.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a small nocturnal gliding marsupial, native to Australia and Indonesia. Question 5. Can you eat sugarcane raw?
I said no.
I hope so, because I've done it quite often.
And no?
I said no.
Okay. So indeed, yes, you can eat raw sugarcane. You can chew the sweet juice out of the stem.
Out of the fibre, yeah. It's quite a tough, if you're travelling through North Queensland or even
Is it sweet?
Northern New South. Yeah, it is. It is sweet. So you can just, you've got a sharp knife in your car, slice it, and it's quite a fibrous growing grass, and you can just chew on it.
Beautiful. Okay, so that was our second fact. Our home. We're only on fact 2. Beautiful. And that was me, so it's Brie. It's fact 2 from you.
Okay, so fact 2 for me, I'm sticking with the uses for sugar. So ethanol is a byproduct. So once the juice is extracted from the sugar cane, it's collected, yeast is added, it's fermented, and it converts the glucose to cellular energy, following which it's distilled and purified, and that produces ethanol and also carbon dioxide as a byproduct. Useful product.
I've also heard that with the sugarcane mulch, it can go through a refinement process to create jet fuel.
I didn't hear much about that. Okay, so we are on to fact 3 from Ruth.
Sugar is healthier than artificial sweeteners. Consuming artificial sweeteners is linked to a range of health conditions: obesity, hypertension, metabolic syndrome, type 2 diabetes, heart disease. The scariest of all is that artificial sweeteners such as aspartame is linked to behavioural and cognitive problems, including learning problems, headaches, seizures, migraines, irritable moods, anxiety, depression, and insomnia.
I've always been curious, how do they make artificial sweeteners? Do you know?
I do not know, but I know that they're in everything. Like aspartame, for example, is in Coke, Fanta, chewing gum, anything that says diet, pretty much.
And in original Coke, they would use normal
in original Coke,
sugar?
I think they use aspartame as well as sugar. But in the diet, they replace all sugars with artificial sweeteners instead, which are actually worse.
Okay, fact 3 for me. You've all heard of Captain Morgan's rum? Mm-hmm. Well, Captain Morgan's rum is named after Sir Henry Morgan, a captain in the British Naval Armada. So basically, rum is a liquor that's distilled from sugarcane or molasses to make rum.
Put Bundaberg on the map.
Put Bundaberg on the map. So Henry Morgan was a captain in the British Navy, and his job was to fight off other countries that were attacking British interests and also pirates. He was based in the Caribbean. There's a movie idea there somewhere, I think. And he was one of the only captains to fight the dread pirate Roberts and thwart him. It's King Charles II give him 3 plantations in Jamaica, sugarcane plantations where he had slaves, but he started to produce his rum, and therefore we have Captain Morgan's rum.
Okay. Fun fact.
The only other interesting fact I could find about him, he's born in Wales, and he was buried on one of his plantations that during an earthquake fell into the ocean, so nobody knows where he's buried.
On the Black Pearl. He's riding the Black Pearl.
Quite possibly.
Yep.
Fact 3 from Brie.
Another use for sugar, it can be used as a concrete hardener additive, which I found out when we were pouring the new concrete slabs down the side of our house. So sugar is sometimes used by concreters as an accelerator as it decreases the setting time for concrete, so it allows it to dry faster and then also harder.
And it doesn't make it dry like gritty?
No. So sugar prevents the formation of calcium silicate hydrate, which is what can cause the concrete to set too slowly and then it makes it weak. So there are some instances where you want really hard concrete, and as it turns out, concrete's not concrete, it's all varying. So sometimes you want really stiff concrete and the sugar will help set it and bond it better.
Okay, so we are on to fact 3 from Nick.
Sugar originated from Southeast Asia. The species responsible for sugar production is sugarcane, Saccharum officinarum. It's a tall perennial grass that grows in subtropical and tropical regions, and it's the raw material that's processed to produce sugar. The region of Southeast Asia that sugarcane plant originated from is New Guinea. The primary source of sugar is believed to have been domesticated and cultivated by ancient civilizations in this area. The sugarcane plant and its cultivation rather quickly spread globally. It became an important commodity for trade and for civilizations all around the world. So the sugarcane plant reached India around 500 BC and then from there spread into the Mediterranean around the Middle Ages.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And what I was reading, like the history of sugar, and it was India. When it reached India, they were the ones that came up with the process to actually extract and granulate the sugar from the cane, from the juice. So the modern day sugar that we have now was first developed in India, which is now
really
the biggest producer of sugar.
Mm.
But yeah, it's totally amazing when you see how it travelled around the world and it hit Europe, and then I think Christopher Columbus on his second trip to the New World
Took it to the fat monkeys.
took it to the fat European monkeys. Took it over to the Caribbean, made a plantation, and then caused obviously the horrific slave trade. And it's always interesting because this is the same thing that you find with wheat and stuff like that, where it's like, did we cultivate sugar or did sugar cultivate us?
I also read that sugar was quite a rare commodity prior to mass production, where it's now in everything and readily available and cheap. They used to call it the white gold because it was such a rare commodity that only the super, super wealthy had access to it.
Royal, yeah.
And wars indeed were fought over sugar as a resource and control of that trade.
I'm just picturing Homer Simpson on his mound of sugar. He's defending. First you get the money, then you get the power.
Yeah, I heard that. In Britain, it was kept under lock and key. So the lady of the house would have a key around the neck, which was access to a sugar cupboard.
Wow.
And the chastity belt.
And the chastity belt. Following on from fact 3 is, of course, fact 4. And for that, we'll go to Ruth.
I am out of fact.
Then we won't go to Ruth, take that back, and we'll go to Kieren. Okay, fact 4 from me. A can of Coke or a line of Coke? The original recipe for Coca-Cola contained cocaine, caffeine, alcohol, and sugar. It was called Pemberton's French Wine Cocoa Tonic. It was developed in the late 19th century by a guy called John Smith Pemberton. He was injured in the American Civil War and became addicted to morphine. And he created this tonic as a medicine to get him off morphine. So you stop being addicted to morphine and become a obese, alcoholic cokehead, basically. And then in 1886, Prohibition came in, so he had to rejig the recipe. So he took the alcohol out, and thus Coca-Cola was born. And Coca-Cola today, a can of Coca-Cola still contains a whopping 39 grams of sugar, which is the equivalent to 10 teaspoons of sugar.
I knew about the cocaine component in the original Coke recipe, but I didn't realize there was alcohol in it.
Yeah,
Me neither.
The only thing I know about Coke is that, and I don't know, but I'd only heard that it's the most heavily guarded recipe on the planet, and there's only 2 people alive who know the full recipe, and they are not allowed to fly at the same time.
And one of those people is Colonel Sanders, who
I was
also
just
has
about
the
to.
secret KFC recipe.
He's got it all.
Okay, so let's go on to fact 4 for Brie.
Okay, sugar can be used to soothe a burnt mouth. So if you singe your tongue on your morning cup of coffee or tea, you can sprinkle a little bit of sugar on it and that'll soothe it. So the glucose slightly numbs the open nerve receptors in your tongue.
There you go.
It's a world of wonder and healing. And
So-
death and morbid obesity and chronic illness.
So you preempt that by having sugar in your coffee.
Yeah, I was wondering how that would work, but I think having just the straight sugar is similar to my earlier facts. So it dehydrates the area which blocks the natural flow of saliva that may have otherwise hit the open nerve endings, and it's believed that the saliva hitting those open nerve endings is what causes the pain. So similar to the using it on an open wound, it's just to dehydrate it.
It's
rather
really
than salt.
interesting because it's like if you use it externally, it has all these healing powers. And then as soon as you use it internally, it becomes toxic.
Yeah, true.
Okay, and we'll go fact 4 from Nick.
Sugar consumption in old age destroys the brain. So high sugar consumption can cause insulin resistance, and this in itself can have a negative impact on the human brain. High sugar consumption in old age can contribute towards cognitive declines. The brain structure and function with high sugar consumption is also linked to a reduction in brain volume. So it can impact things like memory, disrupt neurotransmitter balance, and impair the brain's ability to form new memories and retrieve information.
And the sad thing is, no one likes a sweet bicky more than an old person with their cup
that's
of
it.
tea with 6 lumps.
Oh, yeah,
in
a
it.
digestive.
Oh, chocolate-coated digestive.
My nana has developed a licorice addiction in her old age.
Yeah,
So she just
okay.
sits there and smashes black licorice.
Okay, so that was the end of the facts. So now it's time to ferret out the fibs. We'll start with Ruth and Nick. Brie and I are just going to guess. We're not even going to ask you to recite your facts. Brie, what do you think?
This is a really tough one for me because I'm going to go on a limb here and say the hyperactivity in children.
I think you've hit the nail right on the head with that one.
Yeah, something like that.
Give us a run through of your facts anyway.
Sugar is just as addictive as cocaine and heroin. Sugar causes hyperactivity and behavioural issues in children. Sugar is healthier than artificial sweeteners, and sugar bred slavery.
And Nick, give us a rundown of yours.
My facts were that sugar is used as a painkiller for infants. Sugar originated in Southeast Asia. Sugar consumption in children causes hyperactivity. Sugar consumption, particularly in old age, causes cognitive decline.
No, you still haven't swayed me. I still think it's the hyperactivity.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to sit on that one still.
Guys, will you reveal your fib?
Hyperactivity in kids.
Indeed, it was.
I do stand with my point on I'm going to research who's paying for these papers because it doesn't make sense. But the research says it is a myth.
Okay, so shall we go through mine? Okay, we are all descended from European fat monkeys. Sugar caused the slave trade, is responsible for the slave trade. Captain Morgan's rum is based on Captain Morgan, the captain of the British Admiralty, and Coca-Cola had cocaine, alcohol, sugar, and caffeine in its original recipe.
I feel like there wasn't alcohol in Coke. I think just cocaine.
Where's the fun in
I
that?
think that's a lie.
Trying to think about the evolutionary side of this fat monkey thing, Kieren.
I
not
want this
convinced.
to be true, but I don't know. Could be a little curveball that he's throwing.
I think your little fat monkeys is a lie.
I agree with Ruth that I've never heard about alcohol being in Coke, but that makes sense. Then come Prohibition that it was changed. I love the fat little European monkeys, but I think I'm going to have to say the monkeys.
I'm going to reveal to you that Captain Morgan was not a captain in the British Admiralty. He was a pirate that was sanctioned by the British government to attack the Spanish and other interests, to steal sugar, to disrupt the trade routes. And he was knighted by King Charles II and given the free plantations, but he'd never produced Captain Morgan's rum. It was a business that was started in 1940 in America.
Interesting.
So Captain Morgan was kind of like a mercenary to the Brits.
He was terrible by all accounts. Captured a Spanish woman and burned her alive. All his crew. Hung, drawn, quartered 3 or 4 other Spanish people. And this is on record that he actually did that. And somebody went, let's name a rum after this guy.
What a prick.
But yeah, he was meant to be really, really, really horrific.
It's like starting these tours in the Jack the Chipper in the last episode, that it's like, it's all fun and games now, but it's like these were actually horrific atrocities that we're now sort of punning. Wow, okay.
Okay, and let's move on to Brie.
Okay.
Let's recap your facts.
My 4 facts were that you can use sugar to treat a wound, create ethanol, use it as a concrete hardener, and soothe a burnt mouth.
Now, yet again, Brie, I say this every episode. This is a problem for me because I didn't research it as a building material. Ethanol, I have no idea. I didn't read any research on that. I think the first one's true. The fourth one could be a fib. I'm going to go the fourth one's a fib. I could be wrong there, but I'm going to go number 4.
Okay.
I feel like I want to say the concrete, but then you had like a lot to say on that I'm thinking
it's helpful to have a builder husband.
I was going to say 4 was correct because the first one was correct, so they're kind of on the same line. I'm going to say the concrete.
Yeah, I think I'm with you, Ruth. The concrete. I know sugar can be used to produce ethanol. That's pretty standard. You had 2 other facts there that were very health related and quite similar. So I don't know, maybe sugar does nothing to the mouth. It probably just dissolves and has no effect at all, really. Maybe. But the concrete one.
A lot of internal conflict going on.
Yeah. No, I think I'm going to go with the concrete.
Okay. I can reveal that the 2 of you are correct. So the concrete, it's actually used as a concrete hardener additive. So I just flipped it around. So sugar is sometimes used as a retarder to slow the setting of the concrete, therefore making it stronger. So if concrete sets too fast, if the water evaporates too quickly, you can get shrinkage cracks, therefore reducing the strength of the overall form. Too much sugar mixed with the concrete, though, can delay hardening indefinitely. So sometimes it's put into the mixer trucks if there's a journey through traffic, that if they know it's a long journey, but it's a very, very specific balance as to the sugar, to the weight or the volume of concrete to make sure that it doesn't then stay wet forever. When you're doing exposed concrete, like we've done at our house, a little sprinkling of sugar on the top delays the top part setting, whereas the base sets, and then you can come along and hose off the top, and that's how you get all the exposed pebbles. You can just wash off because that top layer doesn't set, and then you expose all the aggregate in there.
Sweet.
Oh.
Okay, so that concludes episode 6 of I Know Fact All About That. Hopefully you at home watching know a little bit more about sugar now, as do we. All that's left to say is thank you to my hosts, Brie, Nick and Ruth. I'm Kieren. We're out of here. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.